family. Hey, it's Tuesday, which means it's Teaching Tuesday. So last week I was, meditating, praying, and the topic that he had gave me for last week was about letting things go. And as the course of the week went on, he gave me a little bit more to add to it. So this week's topic is cut it off. Cut all ties. Okay? All right, let's get into it. So the story I was going to talking about cutting all ties was from 1 Samuel chapter 15. And I've talked about this before, but just to, refresh your mind, that was when Saul was king, and he had God gave him these orders to tell his men to go into this village and to kill everything. Not just, not take things back. You're supposed to kill the women, the children, the cattle, everything was supposed to be killed. And of course, they got greedy and they wanted to pick up gold and the best cattle and the best livestock that this village had. Although the instructions were to kill everything. But folks can never follow directions, They can never follow directions. So when Saul comes back, Samuel tells him, look, you didn't follow directions, and now God has rejected you as the king. Okay. Now we're going to jump to Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 through 36. And that is a story about when Peter and the disciples and Jesus, they're on the ship. And so as the boat is sailing, the boat starts, to rock because there's a major storm happening, right? But Jesus then already left the boat, and he tells Peter, look, just come out on this water. Just step up off the boat, come out here, and, talk to me. But, of course, Peter is fearful. He's like, what? You want me to what? You want me to step out on that water? That's not solid ground. That's what you want me to do. Even though the ship looked like it's about to crash, you want me to step out on this water. But Peter does end up stepping out on the water. But as Peter steps out, a gust of wind comes, and Peter is scared. And then he begins to sink. And then Jesus says to him, you of little faith, why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? So let me tie these two stories together. All right. So I told you guys last week, God was telling me about cutting all ties. And 1 Samuel, they gave them the instructions that you need to kill everything. Essentially, you need to cut all ties. And when they took those animals and that gold and those treasures and things, that was still giving the enemy space to resurface in your life. Though people have a saying, don't give the enemy a foothold. When you don't cut all ties, you are giving the enemy a foothold. You are giving that thing that you're supposed to be letting go space to come back. So Peter, when Jesus told him to step off the boat, essentially Jesus was telling him, you need to cut all ties with fear. See, you can't enlarge your faith if fear is still taking over a part of your heart. Okay? And I was like, ooh, God, you right. You so right. And so, February is... So, we all know February, it's Valentine's Day is coming up in a couple of days and stuff. And so, personally, after being in a bad relationship, I'm just like, I just really, I'd rather be by myself. And if anybody asks me, do I want to get married or anything like that, I'd be like, no. But y'all know I'm lying. And the reason why I would lie like that is because I refuse to cut all ties. I refuse to cut the ties of fear. I refuse to cut the ties of complacency and comfortableness. I think I made that word up. But I refuse to cut the ties of being comfortable. And God was showing me that in Peter's situation, Peter was comfortable with having his feet on this solid ground and was unable to try to receive the experience that Jesus was getting ready to offer him because of his fear. He was comfortable. You know what I'm saying? You will sit in a raggedy situation because that's what you're used to. The ship is about to crash, but you'll stay here because that's what you're used to. So recently, God was dealing with me with cutting all ties. When God tells you to let somebody go, you got to cut all ties. I'm talking about y'all, I'll still follow folks on social media. God, I just want to check on them. But no, God said cut all ties. So if you got to unfriend them, if you got to block them, if you got to delete them, if you got to do whatever you got to do, cut the ties if that's what God says to do. Because when you don't, you leave that space open for the enemy to come in. Y'all know I'm talking about. And I'm not just talking about relationships, even addictions. If God tells you to cut the ties of this addiction, but you still keep, your lighters around, or you still keep the things that you use, or you're still keeping those friends around that you used to do it with, you're leaving space open for it to come back. Like those soldiers, you're taking things back and allowing the enemy to have a space to come in. And essentially, in both of these stories, Saul blocked his blessing. God regretted making him the king. Jesus had to ask Peter, why do you have so little faith? Peter lost the blessing of being able to experience walking on water to Jesus because he still had ties to fear. Saul lost his blessings because he still had ties to that village that God said to cut it all, kill it all. Don't lose your blessings because you still have ties to being comfortable, because you still have ties to fear. This is not just about relationships. This is about following directions. This is about when God tells you to cut it off, let it die. He tell you to kill it, you gotta kill it. And I know it's really rough. Like for me, it's really rough because I don't want to step on nobody's toes. I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. But sometimes you got to be selfish and do what you gotta do. Topic, I'm reminded of like that picture. Y'all know what this picture I'm talking about, where the little girl has a teddy bear and God is standing there and he's like, can you just give it to me? Just give it to me. And he has this like big, huge bear behind his back. God just wants you to cut it off. Give it to him so that he can give you something better, give you something greater. Like, God is trying to get you to experience something different. But if you can't cut your ties to fear, if you can't cut your ties to being comfortable, you can't cut your ties to being in raggedy situations, your faith isn't going to grow. You ain't going to see the blessings, okay? And I know we talk about it. This year is supposed to be the year of manifestation. So when God said cut it off, cut it off. Okay? And that's Teaching Tuesday. Y'all have a good day. Love y'all.